particularly in these GT cars, they don't like running curbs. So if you make a bit of a mistake and hit the curbs and put yourself in a bit of a bad position, that's what we're going to have to see today.
And obviously you can take a gamble on tyre pressure. You know what I mean? Obviously the track's quite damp at the moment, but with the wind here today, you know, potentially with the sun coming out, you might opt for a lower tyre pressure to have the optimal car towards the end of the race.
The wind's dropped down as well, so not so much of a tailwind down the front straight and a headwind up the backstroke. Talk me through when you were out there in the Alpha in the qualifying sessions for TCR. What are the tricky corners here?
It's really turn one. Braking down into turn one can catch you out because we've got a bit of a tailwind. So you dive in there and then you realise, oh, it's going to get sketchy. But then, yeah, as I said a bit before, turn 2 and 3, bouncing over those curbs. The car moves around a lot, down in a dandy road. And these are all passing opportunities as well, mind you. So at the same time, you're watching what you're doing and, you know, catching it. And it's sort of like chopping wood, as we say as drivers. There's plenty going on out there.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, the car, like you say, moves around a lot and we're swinging off the steering wheel. So, you know, the track's got that many different surfaces on the track, and you know, it's bumpy in places. It's all about car placement and things like that. So the boys have their work cut out.
Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. They've got the best of the conditions right now. Let's take you to the box. Rusty and Krales.
Matty, thank you. We're in Victoria, and even in not great conditions like today, it's still a spectacular place to come and visit. There's so much to see. Great Ocean Road, actually on my list, Rusty. Not done that yet. It's one thing I need to tick off, and it'll happen this year, I think. But so many great things to see and do in this amazing part of Australia. And don't just come for the motorsport, come for the scenery as well. Melbourne's an incredible city, but go beyond that. There's so much to see, and sometimes the sun shines as well, and you get some great action and scenery in this part of the world.
I've done that drive to your neck of the world,
yes.
And it is amazing. And then you talked about, you know, those beautiful shots of Bass Coast there before. MotoGP coming to Victoria next month. We're home to Formula One, of course, just down the road at Albert Park. There's a lot of love for cars and racing in this part of the world, and Shannon's have some great cars on display here today too, don't they?
Yeah, real good festival vibe around Sandown. Actually, despite the conditions, there's a great turnout, but they're all sort of tucked away, hiding long lines for the food stalls with people queuing up to get themselves a coffee and some hot chips. Donuts you brought up before were very Moorish. Thank you for that. As we look towards the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. It's the third round of the championship, and the action has been feisty so far this year. We've seen racing at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, about 100 k's to the southeast of here. We've seen racing up at Queensland Raceway, and now they'll roll out to Sandown. And this is a completely different kettle of fish when it comes to GT cars. It's bumpy, it's aggressive on the curbs, there's lots of surface changes. Basically everything a GT3 car doesn't like very much, Rusty. So this will be really, really challenging for this field as they roll out for round 3 of the championship.
Some highlights for you of the Speed Series presented by Shannon's. This was the last time we were out with Fanatec GT World Challenge at Queensland Raceway. Bit of action for Prince Jeffrey here at the wheel of the Triple H Johor Racing Mercedes, but man, he recovered so well. It was a very, very good drive. Audis everywhere, an Audi assault as far as Melbourne performance was concerned. This one we thought might take them out for the weekend, but in fact they were able to repair that car and get it back on track for the rest of the weekend.
KFC car had a spin on the outside. Mark Rosso, who's unfortunately not here this weekend, had an accident in testing, so that car was damaged, but he was really strong at Queensland Raceway in a couple of second positions. But the first race of the weekend went to SVG and Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim for Triple Eight and the AMG Customer Racing Australia. Then on Sunday we did it all again. The Audis were on the front row. Feisty start as always at QR. Garth Tander had the elbows out in the Ben Motorsport Park car he's sharing with Yasser Shahin.
So this happened, unfortunately, for Brad Schumacher. Contact with the KFC entry. Great camaraderie within this field of cars. And there was more to the story. I think remember a braking issue or something along those lines,
yeah,
wasn't
correct.
it?
So that's why they went up and Brad apologised for that contact. Terrific fight as the Ben car, number 1, carved his way through the field. Yasser, the reigning champion. And then the JMR Racing Triple Eight Mercedes AMG did the same thing. It's a really good arm wrestle between the two of them for the race lead, but in the end, Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander got the victory. This car's never been lower than second in the 4 races so far this season. And and Yasser Shahin does lead the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia Championship coming into this round at Sandown. And Rusty, this is the last sprint round for a little while, so this is important. Get some points on the board and build that championship challenge.
And it is relatively new turf for Yasser Shahin, which I was staggered to learn. So that combined with a little bit of damp track conditions at the moment, but I think as the boys talked about before, and Molly downstairs there before, we maybe have the pick of the conditions so far, certainly since our broadcast commenced here on stansport.com. Have a look here at the schedule for you. 2 races this weekend. We covered off the pole checks for Harold's men's, where before probably a little bit of detail we need to supply with that. 1 check went to pole for the best pro and AM competitors. That went to Shane Van Gisbergen and Prince Jeffrey respectively. And the best AM combo was in Garth Walden's camp, wasn't it? So and Sheargold.
Yeah, correct. And the Mercedes AMG combination. So $1,000 to go and spend at Harold's, which is a great Melbourne and Victorian institution in retail. The mandatory pit stop window opens 25 minutes into the race. There's 10 minutes to serve your compulsory pit stop. And with the longest stops in this race being 104 seconds, there's a real chance that you'll definitely go a lap down, but it could be more than that, depending on how the race is playing. So if there's a poorly timed safety car, a poorly timed pit stop could be absolutely punishing and could cost you massive track position. That man will go from the front in this grid based on the AM driver qualifying time. So Yasser Shahin, the championship leader, will start this race from pole with Liam Talbot along the outside. And the fact you were talking about, Rusty, Yasser has never been to Sandown before. His first visit was Thursday. His first visit on the track was Thursday afternoon when he snuck in a track walk at the end of the day.
I got ushered away pretty quickly when he and Garth Tander were going through video yesterday because it was all about the learnings of that. Michael Caruso joins us in commentary for this one. That's all important. You use every bit of asset you can, be it old data, be it the likes of Garth Tander, someone like that, to try and get up to speed as quickly as possible.
Well, who better to actually teach you how to get around this track than someone like Garth, who's probably done the most amount of laps of anyone on the grid. And like you said, I'm actually more astonished that Yasser hasn't been around here. I mean, this track has been around forever, but that is going to be an interesting one to watch because today's conditions are going to be variable, and obviously car positioning on the circuit is, something that comes with a bit of knowledge as well.
Still light rain falling, but it's the brightest it's been since we've been on air here on Stan Sport. So it'll be interesting to see if a dry line evolves with everyone running the Pirelli wet tyre. You can see the grid in front of you, Shahin and Talbot first and second. Let's go down to the lane. I suspect it's going to be busy down there, Chris Stubbs, of course, over the course of the next hour.
Yeah, I think we might have a little bit to do in the lane over the next hour. I think you're exactly right. Greg Russ just saying that he came to chat with yourself and Yasser Shahin here earlier on the weekend, and you shooed him away because you were pretty busy. There's a bit to teach Yasser about this place. Where do you even start?
No, it's just that we didn't want to talk to Rusty. Yeah, look, no, Yasser had never been here before. So, he's clearly one of the best amateur drivers in the Southern Hemisphere, but unless you've actually driven laps around here and understand the different surfaces and how to use the curves and all the rest of it, it takes a little bit to get your head around. So he's done a great job, obviously. He put her on pole this morning. So, yeah, looking forward to this one.
You've got a new engineer here. I can see him over the back. He's about half your height, and I think his last name is Tander. How's that going?
Yeah, he's doing a great job, actually. I'm surprised how into it he is. He's spending all his time looking at the telemetry and the timing, and he's on the radar, so he's going to tell us when it's going to rain. So it's good to have another set of eyes on the screens, but yeah, he's having a great time.
Got to say his dance moves are a little bit better than yours. We've seen him on social media celebrating his karting victories. Go well today, GT.
Cheers, Stubbsy.
Sebastian, great to have him here. I mean, the whole Tander family just love their racing, and if they're not here doing something like this, they're often together away karting somewhere, which is tremendous. This is the car that Garth will share with Yasser Shahin. The other Audi beside them has a very experienced combo in Fraser Ross, and also paired with Liam Talbot. Very good combo.
Yep, they've been super strong so far. Liam second in the championship, only 8 points behind in that bright red G-Technic Audi R8. So the Audis are 1, 2 and 4 with Matt Stupas in the KFC car. Look at Ross Polakis for Harold's Racing.
Waiting for the lights. Waiting for the lights. Go, 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 go.
That's the word from pit lane. Go, go, indeed, in wet conditions. GT World Challenge, we're underway at Sandown. Immediately half the field lost in the spray. Talbot on the outside, Shahin on the inside. Who blinks first at turn 1? The right of way goes to car number 1. He scrabbles through. The car's burst through the river that runs across the road between 1 and 2. Ross Polakis nicely for Harold's Racing with Valente Rosso there in that AMG up to 3rd place in front of Matt Stupas with Jeffrey Ibrahim next.
Harold's Racing, in fact, have 2 cars in this map. We should point out, Richard, the Gt4 entry with Sam Brabham, who will take the wheel of that as this race unfolds. And we know that his dad, David Brabham, ex-Formula 1 driver and success story at the Le Mans 24-hour, will be up and watching.
Ibrahim down the inside of Ross Polakis at 6. It's a big place to make a move in good conditions. And the Harold's car just bowls it wide across that concrete runoff there on the inside of that very high-speed corner as they run down the hill. But so far, Michael Caruso, so good for this field.
Yeah, they've all done a very good job. They're testing the conditions as well is something new. You know, they haven't had a run in the rain, so obviously this is a good time to test. We've got an hour of running, so plenty of seat time. And the last thing you want to do is make a mistake early in the race and have to catch back up.
Jump on board with the Gt4 Motor Racing 888 AMG that Shane Van Gisbergen will drive. He'll be salivating at these conditions. They are ready-made to order for the Flying Kiwi. I was speaking to Simon Hodge, who's engineering this car for 888, and he said Shane came here and having spent a lot of time in a supercar, the leader on. Oh, Yasser Shahin drops it at turn 2 and 3.
Oh, jeez.
Everyone checks up Talbot.
If he can get out of there, I'll tell you what, he's a very good driver. But
GT looks nervous. He's got it.
He is.
Back.
Excellent.
Well done. Well done.
That is brilliant. It's so damp and wet down there.
Mark Sini might get him here, but no, he's back and away, so that is position 6 he's in now.
Oh, we didn't get that.
So that's Liam Talbot running wide, and then in front, Yasser Shahin. I wonder if he just got a grab in the mirror, perhaps, of the red car firing it wide.
Ironically, that wide for the second entry has given him a bit of breathing space when he's arrived at that off for Yasser Shahin at turn 2. Look at this. So he's got a little bit of a gap now.
Oh, the Gt4 Motor Racing car, a huge moment too. Jeffrey Ibrahim just caught that.
And he's been the big winner of all this, hasn't he?
Totally.
Gosh, how they got away with that. I mean, particularly to get out of the dirt there. We see the cars running through the dirt, and it just gets muddier and muddier and muddier. So he's done really well to get himself out of it.
I was just going to make the point that the 888 engineer Simon Hodge was saying that SVG, having spent probably 200 laps around this joint in the supercar here a couple of weeks ago with the ride day and everything like that, he said he jumped into the GT car, which is so much stiffer and lower to the ground, and said, oh, it's bottoming out and it's doing this. And said, well, that's just the car. So it was a real adaptation process for Shane to get up to speed in that car. But what a sequence of events that was. Liam Talbot is the new race leader.
I sense from some of the teams that you perhaps in a GT car can't be as aggressive, can't use the curbs as much here compared to other categories that you've raced along the way.
No, absolutely not. You're right, Rusty. I mean, the difficult thing is these cars aren't built to run the curbs, and how aggressive the curbs are where we're watching now here in Dandy Road on the left-hand side. For a supercar, you can just run straight over them. You wouldn't even know they existed. Where in one of these, they're so stiff, so low, you know, it would shake the wheel out of your hands. That's how hard it is. I mean, even in a TCR car, mind you, it's not as nice as it is in a supercar. So it shows you different types of cars are built for different types of circuits. We know how great a supercar is at a street circuit, but these are built for those long, flowing, big circuits.
A couple of good minds here to the right of your screen. Roland Dane chatting with Paul Morris. One of the KFC entries is off, the 23 of Matt Stupas, who was running, I think, in 6th place at the time.
He'll be going well to get out of there. Although, having seen Yasser Shahin survive turn 3, anything's possible today. And this is Yasser just getting a spot, so he moves up one past Tony Bates.
Oh, he lost the rear again. His car's not happy down in there.
And Bates is going to have a look up the inside here at 4, but the door firmly shut. Technically teammates out of the Audi Sport Customer Racing Australia stable.
I wonder if the young Sebastian would jump on the radio and say, look, mate, let's just bring it back a peg. Yep. Dad's got to get in a minute, so... But it's not an easy little spot. This is where the surface changes about 5 or 6 times, to be honest, in the space of about 100 metres, and that's where the car loses grip, particularly on entry in the rear. We've seen that happen many a times.
And it's proof that these cars have got ABS, they've got traction control, as young Gus watching on from pit lane, but it's still really, really slippery. Even with all the driver aids you can wind into a modern GT3 car, it's still really difficult.
Well, you still got to drive it, don't you, luckily? It's not like playing PlayStation, so yeah, difficult to, you know, difficult even in the spray. I mean, we're watching now the Prince in behind. As that spray comes up, you're sort of just hoping and watching the lights of the car in front. When he jumps on the brake, you're using as much visuals as you can, and when that gets taken away, that's what makes it hard.
So just a reminder of some of the detail we gave you of what's coming your way in these races over the weekend at the commencement of this one. The AM drivers start this one. The pros will bring it home. So at the moment, Liam Talbot is at the wheel of the car in front. Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim at the wheel of the car in second position. Now, Fraser Ross will jump behind the wheel of car 20 in the pit stops, and Shane Van Gisbergen will be at the wheel of this one for Johor Racing 888.
And then the driver that finishes today's race starts tomorrow's. So the driver that's in the car now will finish tomorrow's 1 hour race. It makes it really interesting. It's actually car number 1's gone 2-1, 2-1. So Gar Tander hasn't actually been able to drive the car across the line yet. He's always been second in the race where he gets the checkered flag. Yasser's the one getting the checkered flag. He's been driving it through the field against the AM drivers, the back half of the races. We're on board the 888 car, and this is a battle for the GT4 cars. 2 Mercedes going head-to-head. The Howard Racing's car going down the inside. And that's Chris Batsios behind the wheel.
Has a moment.
Wide.
It's an easy trap, particularly for the young players out there down into turn 1. We see it all the time. You come in, the track's really wide. You could probably fit 6 cars wide if you wanted to. And then you get down there and the track tightens right up. The corner's really flowing as well. So it's easy to outbrake yourself down in turn 1.
In terms of that GT4 brigade too, should welcome Declan Fraser, who is taking part in the racing this weekend. He will share a car with none other than Craig Lowndes in the great race as a part of a wild card coordinated by our good friends at Super Cheap Auto in the coming weeks. So he's loving his time at the wheel of a GT car inside at Melbourne Performance. It's David Reynolds having a laugh to your left, and the taller fellow with the beard in the background, Fraser Ross, jostling with Garth Tander. David sharing the car, of course, with Tony Bates, who is currently in 5th place. And I've got to say, Tony's demeanour's been just a fraction. Oh, he hasn't been quite right this weekend. He was balked by a slower car in practice yesterday, and that, I mean, he was up a second at that stage in terms of lap time, and he just didn't seem 100% comfortable this morning. So hopefully the rest of the weekend is a good one for him.
I think Bates' biggest problem is that up until Thursday, he was in Queensland for quite some time. This is that GT4 battle. So the red car is the one that Declan Fraser will jump into, that Rusty was just talking about. Ironically, Mark Griffith's car liveried a lot like the Super Cheap Auto wildcard that he and Lounsey will drive at the mountain, and then behind it, Harold's Racing. So, Sam Brabham, sorry, will jump aboard that car for the second half of the race. So Brabham versus Fraser. I'm not sure that's a line young Declan ever thought he'd get in his career, but it's a cool one nonetheless.
And he is a guy, Declan, is a youngster who has immersed himself in that whole operation, hasn't he? I mean, he's regularly in the workshop. He went with them to Pukekohe last weekend, I think for his birthday, stuck around on the Monday after the race and actually ended up going for a ride in the rally car with Shane. So he's had a super run, but what a great way to build up to the great race. And more miles here in the wheel of behind the wheel of a GT car for the first time. Really cool.
I'll tell you what, I'm really impressed with how the Prince is driving. Really smooth, just looking after it, not risking anything at all at the moment. And one thing that will become difficult as we see the rain's gone away is keeping those tyres cool. I mean, these tyres are very soft, they're really good tyre, but as the track dries out, you've got to keep them cool, otherwise they chew up, and that's when you lose more grip than you can get.
Spoke to Roland Dane this morning. Prince Jeffrey's got a beautiful kind of demeanour or personality, very calm person, but very, very methodical in the way that he goes about his racing. And his younger brother, who I think is about 9 years younger, has been doing some racing as well. And he's very different to the way that Prince Jeffrey goes about his racing, kind of with that almost fearless approach. And they've been great for each other, haven't they, in the whole way they've continued to develop their racing careers this year.
And they've been running 2 cars with Gt4 Motor Racing up in GT World Challenge Asia. In fact, the final round is next weekend at Okayama in Japan. And Jeffrey Ibrahim is tied for the lead in that championship going into the final round. So that's huge. He'll drive with Nick Foster there and his brother driving with the Malaysian driver, Jasmine Jafar. Molly?
Well, I managed to stand in between Fraser Ross and David Reynolds, having a bit of a laugh, actually. What's so funny?
We've just been telling Liam to consider fuel for this one. No, he's doing a good job. He's currently leading at the moment. He's doing what he needs to do, keep it on black stuff, keep it nice and straight. Obviously, the Merc looks quite good in the wet, but there's a long way to go, and he's just in a rhythm and he's doing well.
And there was a bit of a heart and mouth moment a little bit earlier on, a bit of a close one. What were the nerves like back here?
Yeah, look, Shaheen had a bit of a moment in front of us, but Liam did well. He avoided it. He's doing a good job. It's still a fair way to go, so we'll see how we go. And
you've got a bit more of a time penalty when you come in for your pit stop. So where do you think that's going to leave you, and what's the plan after that?
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. It's close. So obviously we got a bit, I think, success ballast from finishing second in QR. But we'll see. Obviously Tanda, who are fighting in the championship, they got a longer stop, but obviously the Van Giz cars got shorter. So it's it's interesting where it all plays out. But hopefully the weather will obviously play a bit more into it, and it'll be fun. We're jumping in.
Have fun on it.
Thanks. Cheers.
Fraser keeping an eye over his shoulder because that battle was really heating up between Liam Talbot and Jeffrey Ibrahim. That Merc was dynamite down the back straight, wasn't it?
And just touching on that pit stop penalty that Fraser was talking about, it's a good time to bring it up. They have to stop for 5 seconds longer than Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane Van Gisbergen based on the mandatory pit stop times assessed before the start of the race. That's the penalty for success. You have to spend a little bit more time stationary. Black traffic plays a role in these races, and that's really cost the 888 entry. It's boxed in behind Mark Griffith and just drops a few valuable car lengths. But Caruso, there'll be a message here where Triple Eight could get on the radio to Jeffrey Ibrahim and go, don't worry, we've got 5 seconds up our sleeve. You don't need to take massive risks to get past for the race lead.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that hasn't already been communicated, knowing how professional and how on top of things Triple Eight team is. And you can just tell, he's got a lot more speed at the moment. He's just waiting for that time to pounce. The lap cars really do play a big role. So I would suggest any moment now we're going to... Whoa!
Oh, that's the 23 KFC car that's had another off. Matt Stupas has had a really challenging run. So I think he was off at turn 1, and that was the rejoin all the way down at 2. And it's 400 or 500 metres between the two corners. Stubbsy.
As if making your GT debut isn't hard enough, but throw in these sort of conditions and guys like Reynolds, Van Gisbergen and Tanda, Declan Fraser, how are you feeling as you're about to jump in?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. First time out in the GT with Mark Griffith, and ended up putting it on pole in our class this morning, which is really good. And weather has come upon us, and now it's pouring down rain. So yeah, we're just making sure Mark stays on the black stuff out there and have some fun out there. And yeah, we're plugging away pretty nicely.
Is this all part of your preparation for the great race and that super cheap auto wildcard entry?
Yeah, exactly. I just got to keep my butt in the seat as many things as possible leading up to the event. And when I got the call about 4 days ago to come and jump in a GT car, I was like, yeah, would love to. So now we're here and racing.
And you know you're going to be front and centre when you're with that team and a guy by the name of Craig Lowndes, right? What are you learning off him so far?
Yeah, he's been detrimental as well to my program in Super 2. He's been coming away to all my races and everything. And he's, yeah, the knowledge that that guy has, I don't think I can put it into words. So it's really cool to learn off.
Hey, Declan, great to see you here. Go hard and go well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Nice work. We're hearing from Motorsport Australia Race Control. Pit window will open at 10 minutes to 2 local time through to 2 p.m. So just on 8 minutes time now.
I think when Declan says detrimental, he means instrumental.
Instrumental. That's okay.
G'day to Craig and Lara watching at home, I'm sure. And this is the other KFC car. So this is the Gary Higg and Paul Stokel entry, just locking the rears down there at turn 2 and having that big slide.
If we wind back to QR, the Audis actually had the exact same problem where they were losing the rear on corner entry. So it's obviously a hereditary issue in the setup of the Audis where they, very sketchy on the way in, and they probably do that to help it actually turn. So when the car is hooked up, obviously that helps the car rotate and actually give you more front grip because you've got less rear. But
and the Evo upgrade those cars got this year, the 22 upgrade, was a much bigger rear wing, so they've got significantly more rear downforce than they used to have, so there's probably an adaptation going on there. This is the race lead once again. The Mercs caught the Audi, and now it goes down the inside. Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim executes a really nice, clean overtake and puts him in front.
Great driving, very methodical, nervous from Roland Dane.
Have you ever seen Roland that nervous?
He's done it, and he's getting on with it. Good job. So we've got a good race on our hands here at the moment.
Someone was off in the background. I wonder if it was Yasser Shahin, because he's been flying and the fastest driver on the racetrack to the tune of a second a lap and got that margin down to under 5 seconds. There was just this black flash running through the undergrowth down there at 2. There is the Ben Motorsport Park supported Audi. And that gap's just dropped back out to 6.2. So I'd suggest he's had a small little moment, but got away with it again. This race starting to build. So SVG will jump into car 888. Fraser Ross will jump into car 20, the red Audi that's second. And then Garth Tander will drive car 1 to the finish. This will build nicely. It was nicely kept on the bitumen, but the margin disappears once again.
We saw a couple of the, very different race car, admittedly, but we saw some of the TCR entries struggling in that corner. That's not an easy one, is it?
The surface down there is actually really difficult. It's probably the slipperiest of the lot, and we do see cars actually running straight ahead there and through the sand trap. So,
speaking of running straight ahead,
it's all about just keep, as minimal mistakes at the moment is crucial. I mean, particularly before the pros jump in the car as well, before that pit stop. But what we probably are seeing a little bit of now as well is the track is getting a little bit drier. Those tyre temps will be coming up, and that will play a part. So I suspect to start seeing some of these guys looking to cool the tyre off in a bit of water.
5 minutes until pit lane opens, hence the reason why Shane Van Gisbergen is getting the last of the things organised to jump behind the wheel of that car. Replay of the move to take the race lead, and it was probably maxed out in terms of which is why Roland Dane was nervous, but he got it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Good commitment there. He's obviously really confident in the speed of the car.
That's a fantastic replay.
Oh,
zero emotion from old mate behind, but the team boss, semi-retired.
I love it because it shows the human side of our game, right? Like proper race crew there, and they knew full well, as Michael said, the commitment.
It shows how invested he is, doesn't it? And that's what you want to see.
I noticed on the digital dash of that car, it was still over 240 k's an hour to get the brake pedal towards turn 1, so they are still properly quick. I'm not surprised the Merc is strong in inclement conditions. At the Bathurst 12-hour earlier this year, a lot of that race was run in the rain, and the Mercedes platform has traditionally been very good. Front engine, rear drive, it's a longer wheelbase, so it's a little bit more stable, a little bit heavier than the Audis as well, so it just makes a really good wet/inclement weather race car, and Prince Jeffrey showing how good it really is at the moment.
Garth's got the helmet on, he's ready as well. Some of these leading cars have put a lap just on that KTM Crossbow, the GT2 entry, and I think Molly Taylor caught up with David Crampton a little earlier today. That's a beautiful little race car, that Audi 5-cylinder, I think 2.5 litre, carbon monocoque. I mean, a beautiful, beautiful machine from a company that we're used to doing very successful, clever things on 2 wheels, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it's about 105% carbon fibre, that car. There's more carbon than it needs. You're not supposed to have favourites, Rusty, but I really like that thing. It's a cool, interesting little race car, and the GT2 class is something that SRO, who manage this style of GT racing all the way around the world, has introduced. It's a more entry-level style category without all the ultimate bells and whistles of a GT3 car, so they're a little bit further back in pace. Audi has a GT2 car. There's a couple of other brands getting into that scene. It's a class that will grow in global GT competition. So looking forward to seeing that. And well done to David Crampton for bringing that car out. It is a superb piece of engineering.
Just keep an eye on the background here. Yasser Shahin, the bend entry has closed. He has the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 19.14. The gap as they crossed the line was 3.4 seconds. It's already down to 2.6. And he's just over a second away from Liam Talbot. So as we close in on that pit window opening, remember, it opens at 10 to 2 local. We're at 1:47 now, nearly 1 minute, nearly 1:48, I should say. So Yasser doing a really good job to recover here before he hands that car over.
And this will be interesting to see how they manage this, because we've been talking about the MPS time, mandatory pit stop time. It's based on success, so there's a minimum number they have to be in the pit lane for, and then if you win a race, you get a few extra seconds. If you're on the podium, you get a few less than had you won. So it's 105 seconds for Yasser Shahin.
2 more laps. 2 more laps.
And Garth Tander, so 2 more laps, we're being told, for car number 1. 105 seconds for them, 100 seconds for Fraser Ross and Liam Talbot, but only 95 for Prince Jeffrey and Shane van Gisbergen. So not only do they have track position, but they spend 10 seconds less through the pit stop process in this race. They're in a really good position.
Very
promoter's dream, all three of the cars backed up with each other, and this is going to be good, because I suspect Yasser's going to be trying to pass him, knowing how important he has a little bit more time to spend in the pits. And you've got to give it to him. His attitude in the car has been always the same. He just gives 110% no matter what the conditions are, what the position is. He just drives flat out. I love it.
The very calm voice you heard on the radio there before too, Eric Pender, who has been around the game, been a part of that Melbourne Performance Centre operation, comes down and works for them for all their events throughout the season, and worked very successfully with the likes of Kmart Racing back in the day. He is close here to Liam Talbot. Bit of lap traffic coming into play too.
I wonder if you pit. Are they going to peel off and try and get that traffic cleared by going through the lane? Perhaps no, they're going to stay out.
Box this lap, car 1, box this lap.
So they're staying out, and they're going to work their way through this lap traffic. Part of me was thinking that maybe you'd pull car 1 in then, because they're going to lose time lapping these cars.
He's going up the inside.
He gets down the inside, so he's got to second anyway. Oh, forget strategy, just do it on the racetrack, Yasser. No problems. Wow. And he's right up behind the Merc AMG, who's bottled up behind the KFC Audi. He will pit at the end of this lap. Gee, the Merc's got good traction out of turn 4. Look at the margin it's pulled. Out of the power down out of the slow corner.
That's all driver, mate. That's what the driver will be telling you.
Okay, I've got no answer to that.
Motorsport Australia confirming pit window is open. So here we go.
Oh, he'll go.
Will he go for it?
Oh, not quite. Leaders locked together. We're 25 minutes into the race. All the guns are warming up. Pit stop sequence about to happen. Does anyone stay out and do something just a little bit different and get some clear racetrack? Or do they all bail to pit lane? Predictably, they all bail to pit lane, and Talbot almost gets into the back of car number 1.
They're all coming in.
Okay, look to your board here. Move over, move over, move over, move over.
No, he's missed it, has he?
Oh, no. This is going to be very costly.
How's he going to get out of there?
It's a very tight pit lane at Sandown. The garages are not big, so the space they've got to work isn't huge. Part of me was thinking that perhaps you stay out another lap. You've got 10 minutes to serve your stop. Take advantage of the track improving, the lap times continuing to drop, and even though you've got to sit stationary for a little bit of time, you might get some of that back by having a bit of an overcut in this kind of scenario.
But is it risk reward? Put your pro driver in, get it done.
Working? Is the counter working? Yep, cool. Because I missed the start with the watch because of that. Yep.
Here's Eric, who we were just talking about before.
So what he was saying there is the counter...
Stay stationary there. Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a slow exit there, and it's wet anyway. They'll be gone because they've got a shorter stop. So when you see the counter getting, you can start. We'll just go on the counter.
Oh, what's going on here?
So what he's saying about the counter is the timer on the dashboard, you can see the little blue box there, is counting the pit stop time for Tander. Because it's not the time you're stationary, it's the time from pit entry to pit exit. So you have to take into account the transit time as well.
Pit lane speed limit, pit lane speed limit.
There goes 888, they're done. Yep. Remember, 10 seconds up their sleeve.
All right.
So there'll be track position gain for Fraser Ross and Liam Talbot.
Remember the blue line. Exit's looking clear.
Dave Reynolds
Right on
right
his
in
tail.
behind.
Exactly.
And good track position gain too for Ross Polakis, who's driving solo, doesn't have a pro on board, but a shorter pit stop time.
Super solid in that stint from him, running in the top 4 or 5 there at one point.
There's some dramas here. This is the Paul Stokel car. I don't think they can get the airline into that car to get it up. Oh,
It's on the ground.
it's up with a wheel off.
Yeah.
Come on, driver change. Get the driver change done. Come on, let's get the driver change done.
A little bit disorganised for...
It's been an eventful day for that team, hasn't it?
MPC, yeah, they're usually so very well drilled. Right, so we need to let this play out because this has cycled Matt Stupas to the lead of the race. Despite 2 spins so far, he actually leads, but yet to stop. With Mark Sini second, and only a second behind in the Hallmark Audi. He's doing double duties in the Porsche. In fact, that race to follow this, so he'll jump straight out of the R8 into the Cup car, which has no traction control.
Here he comes.
For AWS. He'll off into the lane now. And that's Shane Van Gisbergen, who'll be the net leader once everyone completes their pit stops.
So do they need this car to roll forward so they can actually get the jacks up? And they were talking about selecting neutral and helping to be able to push that car forward. So this is unfortunately a cluster, isn't it? It's...
We actually saw a shot of Garth getting in the car and not being able to put that driver's net up on the right-hand side as well. So, not sure if Motorsport Australia will have to have a look at that.
Well, it's one of the mandatory safety devices that you need to have, but it looked like the quick release connector didn't want to plug into the dashboard there. Something that team will look at. Predictably, purple sectors for Shane Van Gisbergen now. He is absolutely flying behind the wheel.
Was he born in the wet? I mean,
I don't know how to answer that question. Sure. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? This is Gartander. He's got Fraser Ross in front.
Oh, the blinker's on. Or is that by mistake or by design?
I think it could be mistake.
Because I'd be going down the... Oh.
Yeah, Fraser
go to the left and I'll drive.
Here he goes. He was telegraphing which way he was going to block. There's the drive out of Dandenong Road, and they'll go side by side into the final chicane, and Tander should have enough grip on the outside.
Oh, no, he
doesn't have enough grip on the outside. He drives the car through the mud and through the gravel and comes out the other side and gets passed again by Fraser Ross.
Words of Michael Caruso ringing in our ears about the limited grip in that corner.
It's a young player's trap.
He's going to get a tear up from Sebastian Tander from that little moment, isn't he? Fabian.
All right, I'm down here with Yasser Shed. Looking at the monitors, obviously Garth had a little moment there.
Yeah, it makes me feel a bit better when he does it. But look, the downside of being out in front is you've got to work out where there isn't any grip, and I sure did that.
100%, and I think you had not a great start, but you came back strong at the end of that stint.
Yeah, the car felt fantastic towards the end. I thought, just give me another few laps and I'll bring it to the lead. But bringing it in second's a good place to hand it to Garth.
And I'm sure Garth will do a great job, so good luck for the rest of the race.
Good talk.
This is all helping one Shane Van Gisbergen. The margin is now 15.7 seconds with these two having their battle and running off the road as well. Advantage Gt4 Johor Racing.
I mean, if you thought this was going to be the race where you could go and have some lunch and then come back and have a look at TV and see what happened, then definitely not.
So while we were talking, there's been another change and another hairy moment for Fraser Ross. And you're right, Rusty, 15 seconds now. So this is that moment round the outside. This is the corner our colleague Michael Caruso has been talking about all day, and even the best can get it wrong.
You don't see that from Garth, but it came in at unabated pace, still big pace.
Absolutely. This is when he thought, oh no, let's just get through this edge.
I really want to be part of the debrief there. Now, Dad, what you did wrong there?
Is that me? No, that's good. Brilliant.
And then this, while we were talking to Yasser Shahin, was the moment from Liam Talbot and turn 2 once again, catching a driver out. He did a really nice job to hang on to it, but ultimately it cost him a position on the racetrack, and Tander was able to clear him and has since driven away a little bit now.
Getting some clarity, but word of a penalty perhaps coming through for David Reynolds. We'll get back to that. Let's go to Molly.
Liam Talbot, you quickly got the beanie and the jacket on. Did you have the aircon on in there?
No, it's cold for me. I'm from Queensland. It's like 26 today back home.
Man, watching that stint, it looked pretty exciting from where we were standing. So how was that behind the wheel?
The start of the race was wild because the tyres are so cold, and then, yeah, it's so easy to have a moment. Like every corner, every moment is just imminent. You're just waiting for it. So once the tyres came up to temp, it was okay, but still like under braking, trying to corner, even high speed in the corner, it's a little wobbly and, yeah, exciting.
It looked pretty loose in the rear from watching from the outside. And is that something you're finding in the cars? Is something you can tune out, or this is just what it is in these conditions?
Yeah, at the moment we've got understeer, and then oversteer. So not ideal, but still it's not a bad race car. So fingers crossed. Big shout out to Kensington and Theodora. Love you girls.
Did they say nice and dry and warm up in Queensland?
Yeah, I reckon.
Thanks, Liam.
Thank you.
Just continuing to watch how difficult this mission is as the weather has changed compared to what we were greeted with at the start of this race. Wetter now, more rain is falling. Just as we watch that car of Fraser Ross and Liam Talbot sitting in third. Update on GT4 for you. Sam Brabham ahead of Declan Fraser. In that battle, that'll be a good one between those two as the race continues as well.
Only 3 seconds, Rusty, between them on the racetrack, so very little time. And Michael Caruso's just looking at the weather radar on the Bureau app, and this could be the start of a fairly prolonged and quite heavy rain shower over Sandown. I think Caruso doesn't look particularly good.
No, it does look like Dave's going to have to serve a 10-second penalty.
Some suggestion, Michael, about that car not travelling in the fast lane as per rule or something along those lines. We will clarify that for you, but Michael's quite right. It's popped up on the timing, 10-second penalty to be applied to car 24.
Meanwhile, SVG, just his fastest lap, 1:17.8. The next fastest lap, 1:19.1.
Unbelievable. We ride with Shane now. What an amazing period of his career. He talked about the success at Pukekohe last weekend feeling perhaps a little more special even than a Bathurst win. Winning at home, final ever race there. Following weekend, he's here at Sandown at the wheel of a GT car, and in the coming weeks, he will be driving a Skoda rally car in Rally New Zealand. Unbelievable stuff. Back to the lane.
Well, Shane van Gisbergen in a commanding position at the moment, thanks in large to the work of Prince Jeffrey. Jeffrey, how was it for you out there? Keeping it clean was the goal, right?
Yeah, I think keeping it clean was the goal. I didn't qualify that well due to some traffic I had, so wasn't happy with my qualifying. So I had to make up for it for the team, and yeah, I was just trying to take advantage of it out there and try to be safe and clean.
And at the moment, seeing the guys in second and third nudging each other along and off the track at times, that only helps, doesn't it? You must enjoy those pictures.
Yeah, of course I must enjoy that, but yeah, I had to be smart of it and not try to get caught of it. I was quite close when Yasser had the spin, so luckily I managed to avoid it way before. So yeah, we just had to keep it clean and until I pass it to Shane.
Well done, and may you see the checkered flag in first. Go well.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
A little bit of clarity through too from Ken Collier, who's our General Manager operations for the Australian Racing Group and heavily involved in GT, has been for years. He says, to Michael's point, that 10-second penalty for car 24 relates to traversing in the working lane, not the fast lane.
We can see here inside Garth's car where the window net would normally be. Looks like we've got another spinner.
It's Garth Walden. Vastly experienced racing car driver, but we've seen plenty of experienced racing car drivers have moments today. It's in the car that he's been sharing with Mike Sheargold. This car raced at the 12-hour and had quite a big accident in that race, so it's been repaired since then. Garth just on corner exit of 2 this time. Really awkward little spin and stuck into a strange position there, and very difficult to back across the racetrack, so did a nice job to get that car turned around, jump on board with Garth Tander in increasingly wet conditions now. He's running second, 23 seconds behind his teammate when they're in a supercar anyway in Shane van Gisbergen.
Yeah, you can see that net now as he comes on the brakes. It sort of appears in your bottom left-hand side of your screen, moving around. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with that. Is that not something that has to be up? And
well, yeah, it is part of the safety systems in the cars. So the driver's window net protects the the door side of the driver, and then the other one stretches across, and it's designed just to contain limbs, basically, in the event of an accident, to stop them flailing around the cockpit. So it is part of the car's inbuilt safety features, and I wonder if they will look at that. The thing I was interested to see, just keeping an eye on the speed, was that this car was about 8 k's an hour slower than the Mercedes down the start-finish straight. Now, the Merc, traditionally a lot of torque, bottom-end torque from that big naturally aspirated V8. They fire out of slow corners really, really well. But noticeably, Shane Van Gisbergen quicker in a straight line than Garth Tander in these conditions. You're watching the same thing, weren't you?
I am, absolutely glued to it.
The rain is definitely coming down a lot more now. You can see visibly on the windscreen that wiper working overtime as he does a good job of manhandling this car around.
Joy to watch, but I would imagine from your point of view, with the weather getting heavier, it's quite a mission, mate, isn't it, around a place like this?
Absolutely, and I mean every lap, as the conditions change, you've got to reassess. You know, you're learning as you go. You're only predicting what the grip's going to be like. So if it rains a lot more, obviously you've got to adjust. You know, and that watching the windscreen gives you an idea of how wet it is. So predicting what it's going to be like at each point of the track. This circuit, obviously, it typically rains on the lower side of the track over Dandy Road before it does on the, down in turn 1, turn 2. So you can see it's visibly a lot wetter in that side of the track.
How much of the hold your breath moments do you get with, going that little bit deeper?
I had a few in Polly, don't worry.
Well, we're really enjoying this race, and it's been spectacular as the rain teams down at Sandown, but not far away now, the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst International, and one of the highlights of that event will be a quarter 12 hour, we'll call it a 3-hour enduro round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS. Full enduro mode, GT cars at Mount Panorama. There's some great names being touted. We're pretty confident Chris Meese, the very fast German, a 2-time winner of the 12 hour, will be here to drive one of the factory Audis. Not sure who with, because I don't know if you'd extract Garth Tander from Yasser Shahin's car, but I'm sure there's a place for Chris to slot in. There'll be some great names.
Teaming down here.
You can get your tickets on sale now. Bathurst.international is the website. Really good value for money. Lots of great categories. TCR will be there as well, Carissa.
Absolutely. I've actually been asked this weekend to maybe step in and do the Bathurst 3 hour as well. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to potentially jumping in a car up there.
Can you tell us more?
Come on.
Oh, look, we might have to... we could talk about it off air. No, I don't.
Give us a brand at the very least. There's 8 Audis running it. That doesn't narrow it down particularly much.
Does it? I mean, there's so many GT cars. But look, I was fortunate enough to drive around there in the Nissan GDR. Yeah. So fantastic track. It's going to be a nice little warm-up to the 12 hour.
Chris.
Well, we caught up with Declan Fraser earlier in the GT4 entry. Mark Griffith is the man who brought him into the team. I think you picked this well because you had the good conditions and now it is bucketing down out there for Declan. That's worked in your favour.
Yeah, he did. You're right. And I thought I had the bad conditions to start with because of the rain. It was terrible. And yeah, but it is what it is, and he's young.
Mate, tell us, how did this come about, getting Declan here? Because it's great to see him here experiencing GT for the first time.
Well, there's only a couple of GT4 cars, and seeing the other car put in a young man, Sam Brabham, who's quicker than I am, and he should be. He's about a quarter of my age and half my weight. And these things are all done on weight. So the two owners of the GT4 cars are big men. We've both got a couple of young, promising juniors in the car, and they can go out and have a battle. The owner, Chris, and I, we just had fun for the first half an hour. He tried to pass me and went off, and they're like, all good fun, that's all. As long as we can keep it out of the bushes.
Good job, mate. We're having a moment. We'll get back to the comms.
Thanks, Stubbsy. Well done, mate. So, safety car called. This is the reason why. And, Michael, you got nervous then with the Merc fast approaching that sand trap and struggling to...
Absolutely. I mean, this is a track. It doesn't take much. I mean, the rain's come down and there's parts of the track where the water just sits and as we see it spin here, hard once you go off the track, difficult to get back on. But that moment down into turn 11, we saw Garth go off there a bit earlier. The water just sits there and you lose everything.
So Rosberg
is so lucky.
At turn 6 at the top of the hill, and then Matty Stupas had the moment coming into the final complex here. It is absolutely heaving down at Sandown, and our TV pictures make it look brighter than it actually is, but this is, I'll throw the term torrential out there.
Absolutely.
We are there right now. It is incredibly how quickly this has changed.
I mean, we did a ride day here just after the supercar event the following day, and it was very similar to this, where they shut the day down because once that water sits, particularly on the front straight, you're a passenger, and we saw that that's basically what happened there to Mark Supers. You go off and you can't do anything.
I feel for Ross Palakis here. He was doing a super job in fourth.
I think he got away with it.
Did he?
I think he got away with it. Fourth and leading the AM class for Harold's Racing. So really good. And we should mention, actually, we touched on it in the broadcast earlier, that Harold's have jumped on board to sponsor the Pole Award as well. So a $1,000 voucher to the Pro and the AM winner in qualifying for the round to go shopping.
I think I've seen Michael.
I mean, that's why Carusa's done the deal. Getting the GT.
Totally.
That'll be me. That's what I'll look like after grabbing pole. I'll have all the gear. Still no idea.
I think we've just joined some dots there, Richard, on maybe where the Bathurst of is coming from. Well played. Never one to miss an opportunity.
I'd forgotten you'd driven the 12-hour in the Nissan GTR. That thing was an animal of a race car. Very cool thing to watch.
Look at the water on the track. It doesn't take much down here, does it?
That's not the lake in the middle of Sandown, by the way. That is the front straight.
I mean, even with no cars running.
Crazy.
This big band of
front straight
weather's just swept across Melbourne. And
it's been unrelenting, hasn't it?
Oh.
I mean, and you look at some of the racing still to come. We've got Trans Am, obviously TCR, the Trans Am battle for the championship. Watching on now, as they would be the drivers, thinking, geez, we're going to go out there. I've got a championship on the line.
Yeah.
Anything could happen.
I spoke to Nathan Hearn a little bit earlier, and their family connections obviously are in Lismore in New South Wales, and they have cattle and things like that. And I mean, but there's been so much rain in that part of the world. They've lost cattle, unfortunately, as a result of it. So, unfortunately, it's put us under safety car here at Sandown. Replay of one of the incidents. This is the one with it being beached that has triggered with Matt Stupas in the sand there. The safety car. Huge amount of rain. Race being led by Shane van Gisbergen. He did have a 25-second margin at the point the safety car was triggered over Garth Tander and Fraser Ross. Here's your race leader.
Now, one person that this does not work out for is young David Reynolds. 10-second penalty after safety car is going to put him at the back of the field.
It costs him massively, you're right. Well spotted. So this is the view on board the 888 Race Engineering with JMR, Gt4 Motorsport, Shane van Gisbergen cruising around out in front. There's been some super drives in this. Mark Sini sixth, second in the AM class. That's outstanding. Ross Palakis,
even in the drive.
I was just about to give him a rap because he was leading the AM class and had a lap on everybody else in his category.
Has he hit the wall there, or has he avoided it? He's avoided it, I think, hasn't he?
Difficult to back into the field. But he was leading the AM class, and then his teammates, Sam Brabham and Chris Batsios, and Chris in his first ever car race. What a baptism of fire this is.
Looks like.
They're leading GT4. It's got damage, steam out the front.
Well,
let's punch the radiator in. This has been a crazy old day. I think the call might be coming from Chris Papadopoulos, the former Formula One engineer who looks after these cars at Valenti Rosso, to perhaps shut that thing down before it cooks. They'll have that telemetry back in the garages. The last thing you want to do is damage that big 6.2 AMG V8. Crazy race. Believe it or not, it was drying when this race started, and we were sort of half thinking that there could be tyres thrown at cars at pit stops and all sorts of things, but it was a wild one. Moment for Yasser Shahin, having just taken the race lead, but he was one of many, Greg Rust, who had dramas early in this one.
Ironically, Liam Talbot had run wide at turn one, and it gave him a little bit of breathing space. There's Liam there, allowing him to avoid the spinning Yasser Shahin. Prince Jeffrey, methodical, really smart in the way that he went about his racing. Having said that, Roland Dane at that moment was hard. There he is, hard in mouth. That's how much commitment there was. Pit stops unfolded. And unfortunately, when Yasser came in, it wasn't ideally placed, that car. Garth fought hard to recover position, and then in the damp conditions, went off.
Straight off the road, easy to go off there, and we saw that was Yasser watching on there going, is that me? But it was actually Garth.
And then this with another change of position. So Garth having surrendered second to Fraser Ross. Fraser then a few corners later did the same thing at turn 2 and 3 and rejoined and ultimately gave it up. And then the reason we're under the Kundo safety car at the moment is because of this moment for the KFC Audi. Fired the thing off on the run into the final complex. Stuck in the gravel, and that combined with incredibly heavy rain has conspired the checkered flag to be thrown early, and it'll be dropped at the end of this lap. So it's win number 2 for the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia season for Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane van Gisbergen. Mercedes AMG get a key race win, and they pull a few more championship points out of their Audi rivals. A 7-point gain compared to Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander in car number 1. That's very, very valuable with another race to go tomorrow.
And despite all those moments for Ross Palakis, it may finish with him actually winning in GTA there and finishing 4th outright.
I'm sure he's crossed the line yet.
Maybe he
has, yeah. I think he might be okay. You're right. Great result. Gee, that was a crazy old motor race, and we were 10 minutes short in the end. It flew by. Confirmation of results for you in the end. Under safety car, so the margin's meaningless, but Mercedes, Audi. Palakis classified 4th. Bates and Reynolds next. That penalty, actually, I think they're going to get away with that 10 seconds, just with the way that all work. They might drop one spot. There's a couple of cars dropped off the lead lap. Higgin and Stokell next. A tough day for the KFC Audis. KTM gets home in 8th place outright, and Sam Brabham gets the victory across the line for Harold's Racing in the GT4 cars with a really solid little battle with himself and Declan Fraser.
Although it's been an early...
Water.
Yeah, yeah.
Coming, and that's a safety car.
Wow.
Although it's an early finish to this race, you've got a little headline that you can take out of this. M. Caruso to...
M. Caruso to GT World Challenge.
Exactly, yeah. We'll take that.
Grant Rowley, who heads up all the comms for the series, will be furiously punching out a release about that now, despite the fact that our colleague has given us absolutely zilch in the detail department. We know he's going to be in a car at Mount Panorama, and that's good enough for us.
We'll take it.
I'll commentate from inside the car, guys. How about
that's an offer if I've ever heard one.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a 3-hour race. We'll have some time.
Hey, quickly, I mean, obviously, we're building up across the rest of the afternoon here on Stan with some more great things to come with Trans Am potentially on the line and of course, TCR as well to finish the day. How's the Alpha? How are you feeling, etc.?
Yeah, look, it's the Alpha was actually quite good. I can't say I went 110% in qualifying because I was a little bit nervous. I hadn't driven that car in the wet before, so I just wanted to play it safe. We got inside the 10 and... You know, knowing how the weather is as we see the images here of David Reynolds in the Audi. I mean, yeah, they're the challenges that we're going to be facing today. And we've just seen an hour of probably the most unpredictable, even though the results don't show it, unpredictable racing. And that's what we're going to expect for the rest of the day.
Well done.
So congratulations to Shane van Gisbergen and Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, winners for the 2nd time this season. The Mercedes AMG on top. They've only missed the podium in 1 race so far of the 5 we've had in this season, so it's been really consistent. Hey, there's so much coming your way to Stan Sports, and over 1,000 of the world's best cyclists will compete for outright honours across 8 days of World Championship racing around the picturesque city of Wollongong. Every race ad-free, live and on demand from the 2022 UCI Road World Championships up in Wollongong, live and on demand on Stan Sports. It starts at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Flick between that and day 2 of Speed Series presented by Shannon's here at Sandown.
Done a good job to get that car out.
Very.
I'm looking forward to hearing from our winners in that, just to get a vibe on what those conditions really were like. And everyone who's set to race later today will be furiously scribbling notes and furiously going to soften racing cars up and pulling anti-roll bars off and lowering tyre pressures. Let's hear from the winners. Here's Chris Stubbs.
Thank you. Shane's just making his way over to us. Wow, these conditions are just...
Crashed down the back straight, so pretty sad bad, but the race was set up by Jeffrey here, like to put us through to the front. It was pretty awesome, and I got out and clear track, so can't thank him enough. And then I got to try do it tomorrow.
Shane, you must be super impressed. You've touched on it there, but his progression throughout this year and now in conditions like this to show what he can do.
Oh, huge improvement. And like conditions like that, it's super tough. The surface here is pretty old and slippery, so you could see the way he was searching for the grip, feeling the grip and getting good traction. It was pretty impressive.
Jeffrey, for you now, the victory is confirmed. We spoke to you a few minutes ago, but it is another race win for you. How does that sit with you?
I felt great, especially not qualifying that well and right at the back of the pack during the start. So yeah, I just had to take advantage of it and also enjoying it. It was quite sketchy up there, but yeah, enjoyed every moment of it.
Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.
I reckon what Shane said there is actually very valid, how much he set that up, that performance of his, and the maximum commitment down into one. Really good drive.
I actually like some of the words he's using. He's obviously adapting to the Aussie lifestyle here. Sketchy, mate. He's really adapting well.
Shane's right, though. That pass was awesome, and it was right on the limit of where the grip was at that point in the race with the circuit evolving so quickly.
Absolutely. It was, and we've seen a lot of maturity from him in the last two events, haven't we? But his approach.
Incredibly. The toughest conditions you will ever see at a race meeting.
That's what we need to be racing in.
I think we can scrabble 5 or 6 in the precinct and just
look at it.
That's the causeway, the famous Sandown causeway, and it's been a staple at this racetrack for much of its life. That feeds the lake in the middle of this incredible facility, which, it must be said, weather aside, does look incredible. It's beautifully presented, well manicured. He could turn around and easily head up into the grandstand if he so desired. Braving it out in full.
And here we are now, and it's difficult to see 10 or 15 metres ahead of you.
Quick shout out to our camera operators as well around the track. These are tough days to bring you watching at home some great pictures. So we'll keep in touch with race control here just in terms of our plans for the rest of the afternoon. Very nice wave there.
But you must say, though, after watching that race, all the drivers did a really good job, because it would have been so easy to stick it into the wall. And a circuit like this as well, the walls aren't far off. You've only got a foot wide, head off the track, and you can ruin the rest of your weekend.
Hey, quickly, with Trans Am coming up, I had a bit of a chat to your good buddy and Lee Holdsworth very recently, and his focus is naturally on Grove Racing for the rest of the year. Matt Payne, sounding very much like we'll see him in in an endurance capacity going forward as well. But he expressed an interest in having a steer of a Trans Am car again, which his brother Brett does so well. I reckon that'll be awesome.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm teammates with Brett, and I've been revving him up all weekend. So we're going to see the Breeze brothers here next year in Trans Am. So we've got Stubbsy down in the lane.
Thank you. The boys just having a debrief there. There's a little bit to talk about, Garth. These conditions, I had a hot lap here with you in a GRM car a few years ago in the wet, but this was a whole nother level, mate. How did you find it?
Oh, that's the wettest I've ever driven a race car in. I mean, we were under safety car, and I was doing 100 kilometres an hour, and I couldn't keep the car in a straight line. Like, I nearly looped it here, I nearly looped it on the back straight. I mean, why that wasn't red flagged, I actually said to the guys on the radio that someone's going to crash under safety car, and someone did on the back straight. Like, there's a duty of care. I mean, we want to go racing and absolutely understand race control, and they've got a job to do. But when you got Shane, myself, Dave Reynolds, all on the radio saying, this is way too dangerous for safety car, and then you got AM guys out there trying to drive the race car and survive. And these cars are not cheap. They're expensive race cars, and we want to race them tomorrow. So, yeah, we survived. That's the best thing we can say.
Tell us about the pit stop. There was a fair bit going on the radio there on the changeover between you two, I think, and getting in and out, and you're a fair way down. You're on an angle.
I know our spot is down there, away from the garage, but he angle parked it for me, 45. So that was all right. We got out, no problems at all.
All right, for you, Yasser, that was pretty wild out there as well. We have spoken to you a little bit about it, but just trying to keep it in a straight line, that was hardcore racing.
Scary. Look, you thought grip was there and it just wasn't. You know, turns 2 and 3 are just so sketchy. Exit 3 was just mud. We did our best to keep it straight. P2, we'll take the points.
Well, that's the thing for the championship. That's a huge result, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what matters now. On to tomorrow.
Yasser, we'll see you then.
Cheers.
We hope so, as long as the weather clears. We'll walk on over because I can see Fraser Ross and Liam Talbot are standing by. I'll just move past Troy there from Audi. Thank you, Troy. Boys, Liam, we'll start with you. That's pretty sketchy, but to get a podium at least is something, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild out there. You just want to survive in the wet. And, yeah, Fraser did a good job. We survived.
Fraser, how'd you find it out there?
I must have drawn the short straw. I mean, I've got to say that was probably the worst conditions I've ever driven a car in. The race director made the right decision to red flag, shorten the race, because that was just plain dangerous towards the end. But, you know, Liam did a good job in his stint, you know, handed the car over in second or third, wherever we were in, had a bit of a fun battle with Tander for a little bit, both chucking themselves off. But it was fun. I think we probably should have gone a bit more softer with the wet setup. We didn't. We thought it might dry out. Obviously, we were wrong. But, you know, at the end, we just wanted to make no mistakes. And you come home with a podium. It's all good points, you know what I mean? There's still lots to play out in this championship. But, you know, that was really ridiculous. You know, go up the straight and aquaplaning is always not fun.
Hey, Liam, in terms of the championship for the year, we're about halfway point in it. How do you think you're situating? How do you wrap up your season so far?
Yeah, the season's been good. You never know, like one DNF changes the whole championship, so we'll just keep pressing on, no pressure. We're all good.
All right, we'll see you both tomorrow, and may the skies be a little bit better than today.
Nah, love the wet.
You can start again.
Yeah, okay, copy.
Actually, you finish.
I'll do the whole race if you want.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, guys.
Now listen, while we're here getting drenched and freezing at Sandown, why don't we just dream of the south of France for a while? Because at the end of the month, this man will be there, Circuit Paul du Ricard. Aaron Cameron will be there representing Australia at the FIA Motorsport Games. Should be a little bit different outlook to what we're seeing here at the moment.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I love Sandown, but yeah, if it's anything like this in France, I'm going to be slightly disappointed. And I know I've got a massive tyre allocation over there that I want to use up.
I just checked the weather, so 21 degrees, nice and sunny down there. So Paul Ricard will be looking fantastic. The FIA Motorsport Games are a really good thing because you get to represent Australia in the TCR category. We've got other categories there. It's 3 days. It's all on. It'll be your first time to that famous circuit as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And thanks so much to Motorsport Australia, who's chose me to go across and represent Australia and have a go. And at this event where it's one person from each country in each discipline, there's obviously other disciplines like GTs and Formula 4 and the rallies and the karting. So I think we're going to have a really strong group to go across and hopefully bring home some medals for Australia.
And esports as well. So how do you get into your headspace going from racing here, jumping on the plane, getting over there? You'll have exactly the same car. We're going to unveil that in just a second. But talk to me about the head process and what you're thinking about as you head over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots. It's a big circuit over there, so I'll watch some footage from previous races, and the team's been really good, and they're going to give us some in-car footage from the exact same car. So what we've got here is exactly what I'm racing over there, and it's exactly what I raced this weekend and have for the past couple of years. So it's not that much different to me. It's just the long corners at Paul Ricard that'll be slightly different, but we know the Peugeot loves long, flowing, fast corners. So to me, it all just tick, tick, tick for how fast the car should be.
We'll get the covers off in just a sec. How much work went into coming up with the livery that we're about to see?
Oh, it was a good probably month. We've been just fine-tuning, doing different little bits. You'll see in a moment, but yeah, there's little bits that I've seen the Groves use in previous years that I wanted to include in our one in some way, and trying to embrace the Australian green and gold with also going along with the FIA Motorsport Games guidelines of the banners and what's got to go where. So I hope everyone else loves it as much as I do.
All right, mate, come back over here with me and we've got family down the back there. You've got some of your team members here from next door. So let's unveil it. You talk us through it. Here we go. This is what will be representing Australia at the FIA Motorsport Games. Let's do it.
Yeah, so this is it. Where I've got one of my few loyal sponsors like Bush Ranger, Valvoline, EFS and Villawood Properties all on board for this one. They're all just jumped at the opportunity. And then we got some new ones, the big supporter of TCR Australia like Super Cheap that have come on board and helped us to get across there, and obviously ZF as well to yeah, to get us across there and make it all happen. And we've got, yeah, the Australian flag across the bonnet and the roof, which is part of the guidelines, and yeah, nice and big as we like it. And then, yeah, down the side we tried to do, yeah, the gold/yellow at the front, green at the back, and with the big boxing kangaroo, which was one of my, I saw the Groves use it. We went the cartoon spec, and for me, it was just, it has to be on there. Everyone thinks Australia, and that's what they think, kangaroos and them fighting each other.
Which is interesting, like you said, the guidelines. So there's actually kind of a strict policy of what you can and what you can't do. You were going to originally go around the Australian flag, but then you had to go on a bit of a tangent as well. So this is Team Australia vibes, isn't it? Back from some of the IndyCar stuff that we saw on the streets of the Gold Coast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what when I researched, that's all I could sort of find. And we went along that train, and yeah, the flag. I mean, we pushed the limits with the guidelines, with a bit of the so call it wall paint sides on the side of the flag, and yeah, it's been really great to be able to work with them and get something that works for us, but also meets the guidelines and will look really great at the event.
Talk me through the weekend when you get there.
It's actually going to end up being 5 days for us overall. We got on the Wednesday we've got the big opening ceremony with the whole Team Australia and all the other countries. So hopefully we'll get some nice photos there, all in our team gear. And then Thursday's just a rest day, walk the track, see what's going on. And then Friday, Saturday, have one practice each day. And then Sundays, it's the big day. It's qualifying, the qualifying race, and then the finale, the feature race with fighting for that gold, silver or bronze medal, which I really do hope we can be up there and get something cool.
What do you reckon, folks? We like it? A green and gold? Yeah, nice work. Good on you, Aaron. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Rusty.
I think actually I'll pick up there, Matt. I'll pretend I'm Rusty, which would be a nice little nod. I think I'd like to be Greg Rust. He's had a pretty decent career, hasn't he, with plenty more years to come. But John Bowe, speaking of pretty decent careers, he's with me. And JB, 300 TCM races this afternoon. The first man to reach that mark. Congratulations. What does that mean to you?
Thank you, mate. Well, it doesn't mean anything other than the fact that I'm long-lived. I love the category, and I only got into it originally because some friends encouraged me to, because I was suffering from mental health issues. So that's why I started it, and I'm still here because they're terrific cars to drive, and the racing's fun, and the people are really good. There's good camaraderie, so that's fun for me.
And incredibly popular too, because we love not only the drivers like yourself, but the cars, because we can all associate ourselves with them, can't we?
Well, we can. A lot of us grew up in that era with, big muscle cars, and that's what they still are. They've got little wheels and big engines. So, it's a terrific category. It's not so good in this weather, but, can't do anything about the weather.
Well, you mentioned the weather. For the moment, the rain has just dropped off a little bit. Tell us about your pace this weekend, leading the championship by a couple of points over Ryan Hansford. How are you placed?
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? 2 points, yeah. The car's not bad. I mean, we haven't had hardly any dry running to try and tune it to the circuit. So, and no one's any different. We're all a bit blind. So we've had one race, reverse grid trophy race today, which was wet and not that pleasant. So who knows, mate? But it's, it's a day at the racetrack's a good day, I reckon.
Exactly right, JB. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
We'll let JB move past, or I'll squeeze past in front of him. The reason I actually got into motorsport was John Bowe, a Devonport man, and grew up with him on the back page of the paper all the time, so he's the reason. George Madecki, how are you? Nice to see you. You're right in the mix in terms of performance this weekend.
Yeah, we came with a real intent to have a bit of a crack, so we rolled out in first practice with good tyres and good brakes, and really wanted to get a read on the car. As GB was saying, we've barely had much running, so I really knew